Yeah, man, it took effect on June 22. Give me a second, please. And you get to keep your number. All right, but we'll talk more about it later, all right? Yeah, man, bye. Sorry about that, but I was just telling my friend about number portability and how it works. And you know I can't tell him and not tell you, so keep watching to get the facts. We also have experts explaining why securing your software is critical to the protection of your business database. I'm Andrea Chisholm, and this is Jamaica Magazine. Welcome.
The Mapping Jamaica's Diaspora Project, building a database on the human, financial and technological resources of Jamaicans abroad, helping government to connect with Jamaicans in the diaspora for mutual development. Jamaicans living overseas are encouraged to sign up now. Spread the word to family and friends abroad. To take the survey, visit mapjadiaspora.iom.int. Information shared will be kept strictly confidential. Let's work together for our mutual growth and prosperity.
Good day, I'm Tamara McHale, and this is your GIS News for Thursday, June 25. Government is fortifying its cybersecurity even as it deepens its probe into Monday's attack on the website of the Jamaica Information Service. State Minister Julian Robinson said the investigating team was working to ensure that all potential loopholes are plugged to prevent future attacks.
We're looking at what I would call the critical agencies that persons would have an interest in, and we are ensuring that, at least in the first instance, for those critical agencies, that there are standards that are world-class, that meet requirements that can deal with the issues of cybersecurity.
Minister Robinson also revealed that a public education campaign will kick off next month to increase the awareness of cyber threats and build the capacity of those responsible for maintaining government websites. The Technology Ministry is reporting that close to 200 Jamaicans successfully switched service providers after the first 2 days of number portability, which came into effect on June 22. Portfolio Minister Philip Paulwell said he was pleased with the process so far, and he expects more people to take advantage of number portability as public education continues. He added that Jamaica had done better than expected given the technical challenges that usually accompany the process. Number portability allows mobile or fixed line customers to switch from one service provider to another while retaining their telephone numbers. Government has begun fulfilling a promise to help coffee farmers whose crops were destroyed by recent fires in the Blue Mountain Ridge. Under the first phase of the rehabilitation program, 20 coffee farmers got 10 650-gallon water tanks, fertilizer and coffee seedlings.
The coffee rehabilitation project will be carried on over a period of 10 months. Each farmer whose farm was completely destroyed by the bushfires will receive $30,000 per acre for land rehabilitation.
The Agriculture Minister reiterated that farmers would also get 900 seedlings to rehabilitate each acre of land and 450-kilogram bags of fertilizer. 300 650-gallon water tanks will also be distributed to farmers to help mitigate the effects of the drought. The first phase of the rehabilitation program will run until August 2015 and the second phase from September 2015 to February 2016.
But at a later stage, we will be touring the Flamstead and Tower lime tree areas where we will participate in a tree planting exercise as part of our endeavor to encourage the farmers and to show cause with them.
Education Minister Reverend Ronald Thwaites is expecting great results from the 40,000 students who will be sitting the grade 4 literacy and numeracy tests next week.
Students' performance in this test will indicate whether Jamaica has achieved the important Millennium Development Goal of mastery in literacy, and we are currently 7.6 percentage points below this target. And it is our fervent hope, indeed our expectation, that we will make the grade after all.
The minister was speaking Wednesday at the award ceremony for the Prime Minister's Medal of Appreciation for Service to Education. 40 teachers, some of them with careers in education spanning 40 years, were honored for their service and investment in the nation's future leaders. In the meantime, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller has lauded the honorees for their dedication to building Jamaica through education. Noting that there's no progress without educators, Mrs. Simpson Miller reiterated her government's commitment to the sector.
The education sector has consistently received the greatest share of the budget after making provision for debt repayment. This amounts to over $80 billion every year. The government that I lead accepts that quality education is a right.
To address the 3.7% dip in math scores for this year's GSAT exams, the Ministry of Education has partnered with the Singaporean Institute to increase the capacity of math educators. The June 22 to 26 training session is being held with 56 public and private sector math teachers and 21 math specialists. During the training exercise, participants will examine areas such as principles in teaching mathematical problem solving, assessment of mathematical problem solving, use of instructional media, using ICT in teaching mathematics, and more. And finally, Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller is urging public sector bodies to lead by example and continue to provide quality service to the public. The Prime Minister reminded departments, agencies, and statutory boards under the Office of the Prime Minister that they were being judged at the highest standard.
We have a responsibility to set the stage and the tone, to ensure that if there's anything close to perfection, it is the work being done by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Mrs. Simpson Miller was speaking Wednesday at a corporate governance seminar at the Jamaica Conference Center. She said those bodies that interact with the public must ensure they operate with humility. Participants were exposed to presentations on the importance of board minutes, the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act, the Corporate Governance Framework, and audit functions. And that's it for GIS News today. I'm Tamara McHale. Thank you for watching.
Hurricanes can strike at any time. In the event of one, be prepared to act quickly. If a hurricane watch or warning has been issued, review your home disaster response plan. Map out likely routes to evacuate if your home is at risk, and confirm with relatives or friends you plan to stay with. Also, confirm the location of the nearest shelter. Check your emergency supplies and restock if necessary. Remember, disasters do happen, so be prepared.
So it's official. If you have a telephone, mobile or fixed line, you can move from one phone company to another and still keep your old number. But what are the conditions to port your number? What are the steps to take? And will the providers be governed by any regulations? The facts are next.
This facility will enable any Jamaican consumer with an existing number to be able to take that number across to another network provider. And that is going to be able to be done seamlessly and at minimum charges. In fact, the law now prohibits a charge by the donor provider to the customer. So there'll be no charge from that standpoint, apart from those where there are agreements that govern the service previously to the porting.
The consumers ought to be able to port their numbers provided that there are no outstanding bills relating to that number. And so you have to settle all of your bills prior. Otherwise, the port would not be allowed. There's a scenario in which if you are actually roaming, time has been allowed for a 5-day period, prior which by that time approximately 80% of the information, your roaming information, would have been with your service provider, and so therefore you would not be able to port if you have roamed within the last 5 days. After that, if you have no outstanding bill, or if your bill is below the credit that you have with that company for that account, then you'll be allowed to port. One of the first things that all customers are going to need to do is that they're going to need to visit the facility of a service, of what we call a recipient service provider. On visiting that recipient service provider, they would then be advised of all of the various responsibilities of the service providers and the responsibilities of customers as it relates to all issues relating to number portability. You would then be asked to fill out a form, an order form, and that form is going to be a physical form, but of course it will be inputted online, and once that form is submitted, you'll be then asked to, if you're a mobile customer, you'll be asked to text a number to a number, I believe it is 444 port, that number will be. You'll be asked to text a number, text port to that number, and that text will actually validate the porting process with the number portability administrator, and that will therefore kickstart the porting process. Once validation is complete, your porting process has formally begun, and therefore there's no turning back after that point. The process will go through to the end, whereby your number is deactivated on the side of your donor service provider. In the case of a fixed line service provider, again, it's pretty much the same thing. However, you will have the opportunity to either provide an email address or a mobile number to which you can be used to validate that you're the service provider, you're the person who is requesting the port. And once that validation takes place, then the normal process goes in. Corporate customers, however, have a slightly different process in that they are allowed to submit an authorization form, which would list all the numbers, a letter of authorization. They'll be asked to submit a letter of authorization, which would list all the numbers that need to be ported, and that, of course, will be inputted in the authorization form. And one of those numbers that is in the set of numbers to be ported would be used as the number to validate the port. So you would then be asked to call the number, either the 444 port or the IVR, as the case may be, to send that information to them so that you can validate the port for the port to begin. For the porting of individual numbers or up to batches of 49 numbers, it is 1 day. So all of what you do once you go into the service provider and the port is requested and it is validated by the number portability administrator, you can do 1 to 49 numbers and the port will be completed within a day. For above 50 numbers, 50 and above, it will be 2 days for mobile numbers. For landline or fixed line services, it is 5 days for the porting of 1 to 99 numbers, and then for 100 and above, it is 10 days. It is 10 days, and that's what the law allows for. There's a complaints mechanism which would allow for consumers who have an issue relating to the porting of their number to make complaints, first of course to the service providers as normal, but if the issues have not been adequately addressed, they would, as in keeping with the normal regulatory process, be able to lodge a complaint with the Office of Utilities Regulation, who would then seek to work with them and with the service providers in addressing that matter. Then there's a disputes mechanism process which allows for the resolution of disputes between operators, and if between themselves, I think a maximum of 15 days is allowed. If after 15 days the matter has not been resolved, then the matter is then automatically sent to the Office of Utilities Regulation, which under the law would have the authority to arbitrate and to deal with the issue there. So there are two mechanisms that have been put in place that would enable with issues to be dealt with in a very timely fashion. One of the value propositions that number portability therefore provides is that a service provider, knowing that they stand to lose their customers if their costs remain high, and that there is no barrier for them to switch, would therefore be foolhardy to keep their charges unreasonably high in the face of the competition that number portability brings. And so therefore you'll likely see a further leveling or harmonization between the prices, the cost of telephone calls from service providers.
We really believe that this is going to stimulate further competition. This will lead to further lowering of prices and all in all, a tremendous boon for the consumers. We see it as a significant benefit that the consumers will now have greater power to determine where they, what service provider they maintain their accounts with.
Jamaica's beauty is our duty. Prevent bushfires during the windy, dry season. Remove firewood, dried grass, or bush away from your house. Never use fires to clear land. Never light a fire in an open area when it's windy. Ensure cigarette butts, matches, or other lighting materials are out before disposal. And use an ashtray. Don't throw cigarette butts out of your window. High winds and dry conditions can be a fiery combination. Lend a hand. Protect our land from fires.
Time for some security matters. Hackers continue to present a threat to company databases, as we saw in recent days where a few websites were affected. But this dreaded reality has caused businesses to put more stringent measures in place. We spoke with some information technology experts, and they shared critical steps to achieve a well-secured software system.
Protecting your business goes far beyond securing the physical structure. It involves more than just securing goods and other assets inside the building. In this day and information age, locking your doors and hiring security personnel alone won't cut it. If you're like most businesses today, using electronic databases, doing e-commerce, an invasion by unauthorized persons could put a temporary or permanent halt to your business.
We all know what happens if when a breach happens, and sometimes you can never recover. It destroys life, information is compromised, or information is destroyed.
Today, we're talking about software protection and providing you with the information you need to better protect sensitive data. Your website has been hacked, your information stolen. You immediately think it's a weakness in your network. But according to research from the U.S. National Institute of Standards, 92% of all security breaches occur because of application or software vulnerabilities and not network vulnerability. In simple terms, here's what that means. This is your data. This is the application or software used to protect it. This is your network that is used to coordinate and carry out activities. And this is your business. Now, experts say your data becomes exposed when unauthorized persons or hackers get past your network and reach your software system.
Take, for example, a bank. And if this bank, who we entrust with our confidential information, coming through the front door of the bank, certainly need to protect that. Getting past the teller, certainly need to protect that. But imagine now you get the information about you and I. this is the area we are concentrating on.
And rightly so, because this level of breach and exposure of not only customers' private information, but information on the operation of your business can potentially cost you revenue, lead to a bad reputation, and loss of confidence. Having a well-secured software system then is a must. The best way to get the process started and achieve tangible results is to construct a security gate. This is an added reinforcement around your software, making it harder for intruders to get in.
There are some key building blocks that you need to have in your program suite to ensure that person does not get access to your programs and be able to easily manipulate them. And those are really stringent programming steps.
This gate will give you a true test of the strength of your security measures. It will also highlight security threats before they happen. Program developers play a critical role in the setup of software systems, and experts tell us that their job is not to focus solely on the usability, so proper training is important.
A big part of our educational process here is to kind of shatter those assumptions and get an orientation towards thinking about how an attacker thinks. They have a completely different view of these applications. Their view is completely different. They're looking not for functionality, but for vulnerabilities.
At a recent government-endorsed Secure Software Development Lifecycle Training seminar, young professionals were brought up to speed with global and national threats and how to incorporate advanced technology in their applications.
It's important at all times as ICT professionals that you always upgrade the skills that you have and you ensure that you are at the cutting edge in terms of not just local developments but global developments. And certainly in an industry which changes as rapidly as this one does, it is even more important to be at the forefront of the industry.
Seminar participants were also given a refresher on the dangers of complacency, the risks for businesses and individuals who relax and think their network is safe.
Let me give you a really good example. The most common password used today is password. The second most common password is 123456. And so as a developer, if you assume that somebody's password is secure and yet you've got a significant portion of your users using the same password, i.e. password, then that provides an open door for an attacker to use those accounts to attack your system.
The internet has revolutionized how we operate in the world, right? And what it has done is that bad and good. It has created all this window of opportunities and a window to your business. But what it allows easily now is someone to come to your website and to gain access from that website to your core business software that run in the business.
And so, organizations, especially state entities, are encouraged to build an awareness among staff and their key stakeholders to build and coordinate security measures with their ICT partners.
We need for persons, I said it before, that at the CEO level to understand that there are real dangers in how persons can get access to data, especially in the public sector. I mean, if you think of it, the Registrar General Department, the Passport Office, all of these agents are critical. If persons breach them, the ports, then we can have serious problems nationally. And we need to have a heightened awareness of all the possibilities of danger that is out there.
With this in mind, government has taken steps to amend the Cybercrimes Act to include harsher punishment and make provisions for offenses that are similar to cybercrimes.
In addition to that, we have established a cybercrimes task force, which is comprised of both government and private sector players. We are working with the International Telecoms Union to establish a cyber emergency response team.
With government playing its part, it's now up to you to ensure that you constantly evaluate your software security and create a plan for long-term protection. Don't be caught napping. Get software security conscious. Protect your business.
so happy that you're still watching because, as usual, we have some more useful information for you. This time, it's about your roof. When was the last time you checked it? You think it can stay locked down if there's a hurricane? Remember, we're in that season, so now is the time to secure your roof.
Pitched, flat, arched, or gabled. It's the last uppermost line of defense against the elements. Vital cover for your valuable possessions in the face of nature's fury. Roofs are essential to a complete, properly constructed house. And in climates like ours, must be laid to withstand destructive tropical cyclones, not least among them, hurricanes.
The three main types of roofs that we have in common practice today are concrete, timber, and a combination of those two with other materials. Hurricanes differ in their velocity or speed of the winds that might affect our buildings. So you've got to make sure that the structural integrity of the members are sufficient to bear the pressure that a hurricane wind would place on a roof.
Concrete roofs generally prove more difficult to destroy in a hurricane, but if improperly laid, are just as vulnerable to grave damage.
There's a great misconception about the concrete roof being all that waterproof. But from time to time, depending on the mix and the maintenance of the roof, water could pond on the roof and soak through cracks that would appear because of shrinkages that take place. So you've got to be careful and make sure that you provide an impervious layer to the concrete.
So before one slabs, an engineer must be consulted. The correct procedures must be adhered to protect your roof and the valuables it protects.
This is a clay tile that is often used on certain types of residential construction. It's impervious, it will not contribute to fire, and properly secured with fastenings, it will withstand most hurricanes. It was not desirable to lay flat because the water would go into them. This is another example of the sheeting that is commonly used on residential buildings. It's extruded aluminium sheeting. You see where the V goes up? There's a wooden fillet that is placed there, and each of those are secured by a screw. That enables the roof to stay on even with high winds. These are examples of the shrinkage cracks that you can get in your concrete slab. This slab roof has been rendered since it's been constructed. Yet still, from time to time, you will still get these shrinkage cracks. And once they're there, water can percolate through.
The show has come to an end, but the information continues to flow on our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're on the web, send your ideas and comments via Twitter at JIS News or email jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. Until tomorrow when we do this all over again, I am Andrea Chisholm, and on behalf of the production crew, do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.